Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're diving into something that's really stirred things up in rugby lately, the bomb squad.
Ah, yes, the bench strategy, mostly forwards.
Exactly. That tactic, where teams like the Springboks, and now France too, load their bench with forwards, sometimes even that 7-1 split.
It's definitely eye-catching.
It is. And we're going to unpack it, especially looking at some pretty strong views from Matt Williams, the former Scotland coach. He's got concerns.
He certainly has. He's been quite outspoken.
So stay with us as we explore this. And hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of rugby, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. You don't want to miss what's coming next.
Definitely. So where do we start? The origins, I suppose.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, it was the Springboks who really pioneered this, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They developed it, and you really can't argue with the success. I mean, back-to-back World Cups, it played a huge part.
It really did. Started as, what, 6 forwards, 2 backs on the bench?
That's right, the 6-2 split. But then during the 2023 World Cup, they really leaned in and went for that 7-1 split. That felt like a big shift.
A massive statement of intent, and now France, they've jumped on board.
They have used the 7-1 tactic in, I think it was 3 Six Nations games straight. And, well, they won their first title since 2022 off the back of it, so it's clearly effective.
It is effective. And, Matt Williams, even though he has concerns, he actually acknowledges the clever thinking behind it.
Right. He's not dismissing it out of hand as like a dumb tactic. He sees the coaching intellect there.
Yeah, he mentioned how well France used those forward replacements against Ireland in the Six Nations. So on paper, it wins games.
Exactly. He said he admires the thinking, from a pure coaching viewpoint. But, and this is the big but, isn't it?
Yeah.
He then asks, okay, it works for some teams, but what's it doing to the game itself? Is it good for rugby overall? That's where his concerns really start. Player welfare, game dynamics.
Let's focus on that player welfare aspect first, because he sounds genuinely worried.
He does. He mentions talking to, old forwards and old props, his words who apparently share his worries about the dangers involved.
And he brings up something very personal too, doesn't he? About a former teammate.
Yeah, Grant Harper, a clubmate of his who was paralyzed after a scrum collapsed. That's obviously deeply affected him and fuels why he feels he can't stay silent on this.
Wow. Yeah, you can understand why he'd feel so strongly then.
Definitely. And he connects that to the bomb squad by highlighting the potential risks. He talks about, the sheer physical toll, fresh, powerful forwards constantly coming on.
Against guys who might be tiring.
Exactly. He mentions the potential for increased brain injuries and also the sort of constant compression on players' spines over 80 minutes because there's no let-up from fresh opposition forwards.
And he even speculated about Steven Kitshoff, the Springbok prop.
He did. Kitshoff had that really serious neck injury, retired shortly after. Williams recalled hearing he was 2 millimeters from death after a scrum incident. Now, Williams was careful, sort of wondering aloud if the immense scrummaging pressure, potentially amplified by this tactic, could be a factor. It's speculation, but it highlights the forces involved.
It certainly paints a picture of the physical demands, which I guess leads into his next point about fairness, competitive balance.
Yeah, that's a big one for him. He basically says, look, not every country has the forward depth of, say, South Africa, New Zealand, or France.
Right.
So if this 7-1 split becomes the norm, where does that leave nations like Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia, Argentina? He lists them specifically.
He thinks they could be seriously disadvantaged.
That's his argument. He suggests that even Ireland, who are flying high now, might struggle to keep up once their current, really experienced props like Todd Furlong eventually retire. He doesn't see the same level of replacements coming through everywhere to sustain this kind of strategy.
So a potential widening of the gap between the haves and have-nots in terms of forward power.
That seems to be his fear, yeah. It could skew the competition based purely on depth in one area.
Interesting. And he also noted how the tactic itself has maybe evolved in its application.
Yeah, he observed that initially South Africa seemed to use the bomb squad, tactically to win scrum penalties, get field position, set up a maul, kick for goal, that sort of thing.
Okay, using scrum dominance for specific gains.
Right. But then he looks at France and he sees something slightly different. He describes their approach with the 7-1 as more of a relentless Route 1 style.
Route 1, like just smash it up?
Kind of. Basically using that constant stream of fresh, heavy forwards to just grind down opponents, especially teams that maybe don't have 8 comparable forwards to rotate through. Wear them out physically.
So less about specific penalty plays, more about overall attrition.
That's how Williams seems to interpret France's adaptation, yeah. A subtle shift, maybe,
Yeah.
but potentially quite significant in how it impacts the game flow and the opposition.
Makes sense. And if you're finding this tactical breakdown interesting, folks, just a reminder to hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession so you get more deep dives like this.
Good point. So, with all these concerns being raised, what's the official line? Has World Rugby stepped in?
Well, according to the information we have, World Rugby has looked into it. And they've stated that they don't currently have plans to outlaw the bomb squad.
Okay. So they don't see it as inherently more dangerous.
Apparently, their research so far hasn't shown that it makes the sport significantly riskier from an injury perspective.
Right. But Williams isn't convinced by that.
Doesn't sound like it. He's basically said he'll keep voicing his concerns, suggesting maybe the full picture isn't clear yet or the research hasn't caught up with the reality on the pitch.
Which, highlights that classic tension in sport between innovation and safety or tradition. It's a tough balance.
It really is. And Williams doesn't just stop at the top men's game either, does he? He broadens it out.
He does. He asks, what about the women's game? Very few countries there have the kind of forward depth to even contemplate fielding two near-equal packs across 80 minutes.
So could it create even bigger disparities there if it became common?
That's the implication. And he also worries about the club level. Think about a tight head prop in a lower league, maybe already tired after 60 minutes, suddenly facing a completely fresh opposition front row brought on as a bomb squad. Safety concerns there, too.
Yeah, you can see the potential issues filtering down.
Absolutely. Which leads to his sort of final plea, I suppose.
Itches.
He's urging people, fans, coaches, administrators to try and step back from their, national bias or club loyalty.
Look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. And ask honestly, is this tactic, even if it helps my team win, actually good for the overall health and spirit of rugby union globally?
That's a really challenging question, isn't it? Puts the onus back on the whole community.
It does, and maybe that's a good point to bring our listeners in. What do you think about the bomb squad?
Yeah, we genuinely love to know. Do you see it as smart, innovative, just part of rugby's evolution?
Or do you share some of Matt Williams' worries about player safety, fairness, the way it changes the game?
Let us know. Find Rugby Obsession on social media or drop a comment wherever you're listening to this deep dive. Your views really do matter to us.
Absolutely, because ultimately this whole debate about the bomb squad, it's more than just choosing replacements, isn't it?
For sure.
It touches on really fundamental questions about what we want rugby to be. The balance between power and skill, attack and defense, safety and spectacle, and crucially, ensuring the game is viable and competitive across different levels and nations.
Well put. So as you can hear, the bomb squad, it's complex. It's not just a simple selection choice. It sparks these vital debates about welfare, about balance, about the soul of the game, really. Matt Williams has definitely given us plenty to chew on.
He certainly has.
And don't forget to subscribe to Rugby Obsession for more deep dives into the stories and strategies shaping our sport. Thank you for joining us for this Rugby Obsession deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We look forward to you listening to our next episode.